So, hello, I'm very glad that you have such an opportunity to meet with me. So, my
Hmm.
name is Victoria Molodova, and I'm currently a first year student at York University. And the
Okay.
interview should not take longer than 1 hour. And I would like to inform you that also I will be taking some notes during the interview, and I'm very excited to listen to your opinion. So, let's
Excellent.
yeah. So, first of all, could you please introduce yourself and just in few sentences describe your role on the day, just like when the Freedom Rally was organized in Yangon Square on October 17th?
Sure. So my name is Lamont Daigle. I'm currently the president of the Line Canada, and we organized the event at Queen's Park, at Dundas Square, and we're still comprised of many team members with the Line Canada because we like to ensure the safety and procedures of the protests and the routes and any directions that our protests have taken. We always like to check in with the police services at the time to make sure that the march is along with any other logistical issues, such as liaison with police services and guest speakers, also with other marches and protests that may be happening in Toronto at the time. We always like to see who else is involved on the day in social action out there.
Mhm. Oof,
Hmm.
thank you. My second question is, what
Yes,
was your initial motive for forming such a movement and like organization?
sure. Well, I mean, mainly for myself personally, I stood up and wanted to raise awareness about my personal civil liberties and the risk I was running at losing them. And of course, then we started the organization because our aim was to really bring awareness to the people all across Canada that affect the Canadians today.
Hmm. Another question that I'm very interested in, like how much trust you have in political leaders.
Well, first and foremost, we're apolitical. We're a non-political movement. We're more of a neutral party, I would say, movement. Unfortunately, with the current situations that are happening in Canada here, I don't have much faith in our political system or leaders.
Actually, has there been a certain point where your trust began to waver? Or just maybe have you always been skeptical?
Well, I would say that over time, when I've seen, political leaders align themselves with the banking industry or with the way certain leaders have dealt with corporations and businesses that are out there, is that there's always seemed to be a liege together, that they are somehow working together. And for some reason, these political leaders or government leaders or corporate leaders always seem to have an agenda that is not really based on the needs of the people. And quite frankly, even though they've been caught doing what they have done and have gone through the technical legal system at play today, they always seem to have their jobs back, or they work for another corporation or another bank or another party leader. It just it doesn't seem to be a system that is there for the people. And personally, I don't trust any of them.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. Also, just like in your opinion, what kind of
Yes.
emergency or crisis situation would justify limiting people's freedoms, if any?
Mm, I don't believe that there's any reason. There should be absolutely no reasons or justification for the government to take away the rights and freedoms of any of the people. Our civil liberties must always be protected, no matter what's happening in the world.
So, following what alternatives to limiting people's freedom are available to tactile crisis?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, just like maybe, can you think about maybe just like some alternatives, some alternative options to rather just like limiting people's freedoms that may be available to tactile crisis or to cope
Hmm.
with like crisis situation?
Well, I would say that kind of goes into the same question around, what kind of element would lend support from the people, to warrant such restrictions that they're imposing on us. I would say honest and real media, factual evidence and science, having more of the people having a say in the way the government is being run, quite frankly, because especially in Canada, things are very different than they used to be when it used to be English, French,
Mhm.
First Nations, Indigenous people, and that's changed a lot. There are a lot more different cultures from around the world, different people's different lives that they've come from war-torn countries, they've come from different governments. So I would think, especially with the beautiful nature of the different provinces that we have right across Canada, I would think that more of a people's voice would be, lend themselves well to the next government that works with us.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Besides, regarding social media, I saw the Fight the Fines post on your
Yes.
organization blog. Yeah, that you had already faced 7 fines up to 2.5 million dollars and one
Yes.
year in jail. Could you please comment on how this has affected your future event planning?
Well, let me reassure you that even though, see, each ticket, you have to remind, see, a person by themselves protesting and just getting a ticket is anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000.
Mhm.
A not-for-profit corporation such as ourselves, built to protect our organization from any legal repercussions, are anywhere from 25,000 to $500,000 and 1 year in jail. In other words, if you use that model, then you would look at $2.5 million in fines and 5 years in jail, right? If convicted on all. Reopen Ontario Act, what's the word? Um, Contravention. So
Mhm.
contravening those acts would bring that, unless the lawyers have a good time explaining our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 2C. These will not stand up in court at all. And the way it affected us through all of these breaches and through what we've been able to do with future event planning, unfortunately, I've been charged criminally, which has conditions not to use microphones, speakers, um, megaphones. I can't post on any social media about protests totaling any more than 4 people. This has limited my ability to organize effectively and to speak at any rallies. Of course, it's an attempt to just silence me and to curtail the movement in total. So
Um, do,
the government knows what they're doing.
oh, do you think these fines are fair?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't think anyone should be charged criminally or charged financially in a system that depends on our freedoms and for the ability to buy things in their lives to enjoy our freedoms and rights. As a matter of fact, for myself, to be a voice of the people that cannot be heard, I'm here for the people because I had no other leader I could depend on to get my voice heard. So that's why I joined. I wanted to be there for people that had no voice. So for me to be there for my people and to be charged by a government in such a way is criminal in its own way. And as a matter of fact, we're going to go after them as soon as the court proceedings are finished. So we're gonna have fun with them.
Thank you. Regarding the protest attendance, has the threat of fines kept the number of protesters down?
I am not sure. I've seen the numbers really waver, really go up and down depending on the weather. The weather is very difficult, but I can guarantee you one thing, that people in Canada are very hardy when it comes to cold weather and defending their freedoms and rights. And the numbers have been steadily climbing since the weather has gotten better. So it's been perfect planning by the government to impose more strict rules when it gets cold.
Mhm.
And now that the weather is becoming beautiful, the police are now leaving people alone, so it really depends. The numbers have not gone down. People in Toronto are still excited about getting out there to explain how unhappy they are at these restrictions.
Well, thank you very much for your response. Can
Mhm.
I also ask you who your mentor is? Who do you like to listen to?
Well, quite frankly, I have been working with a lot of really great people in my field in itself. And so I haven't gone to your basic mentors that are out there on social media, huge, self-empowerment specialists and all that kind of stuff. I've gone for classic people, as a matter of fact, such as Dr. David R. Hawkins, Power versus Force, the creator of the calibration scales of consciousness. I've worked with and understood and am under a discipleship of Paramahansa Yogananda, who understands Kriya Yoga. I follow Wade T. Lightheart with Bioptimizers and I believe they work with Kangen Water. There's also Wallace Wattles, Napoleon Hill, just to name a few. But when it comes to social media and who I follow, let's just say this, over the last year, we have a really great team of people that really enjoy being on social media, and they're way more adept at this than I am. And they inform me on the news of the day if it's something I need to pay attention to. I can hardly personally be responsible for being on social media to give me a balanced viewpoint. Social media is, as we know, has its pitfalls because of sponsorships and alignments with certain corporations and mainstream media. So I'm very careful as to what I pay attention to on social media.
So concerning the problem and the issue with social media, do you feel as though your organization has been fairly represented in the media?
Not exactly. I don't believe we've been fairly represented at all. It's getting a little bit better because we have really done our best to niche ourselves towards pro-freedom and ending the lockdown with nomorolockdown.ca, right? So we're not protesting against masks or vaccines. We're pro-choice, and we want people to understand that they can choose whether to wear a mask or to take a vaccine. It's all up to them. Many in our group do wear a mask. Our aim was really only to raise the awareness about the risk of losing our rights and civil liberties due to the restrictions. However, the media has labeled us to be an anti-mask protest group, which is hardly the case.
I understand, yeah. So do you feel that the way your group is represented in social media has had an impact just like on your support of your organization? Has your organization grown?
Our organization has grown because, like I said before, we've seen a real energy towards mainstream media making all the protesters in downtown sound as if they are anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers. We're not that. We want to make sure that people understand that that symbol behind me right there is the O for oppression. The government has crossed the line and we draw the line. In other words, end the lockdowns, end the emergency order, return our freedoms back to us, and all of these other restrictions will go away, such as masks, vaccinations, all that kind of stuff. It won't be such a pressure anymore if we can get our lives back in order. We are a civil liberties organization at the end of it all.
How do you think you can prevent false reporting? Did you take any actions?
I don't believe there's anything we can do to create to stop that from happening. Mainstream media will take, and even this interview, for example, I mean, any interviewer can take the information that we've given them and quote whatever kind of interest that they have in the reporting that they've got going on. So we really have to hope that that the people that are interviewing us do it for the right reasons and causes. So we do our best to explain to people we are pro-choice. we're about freedom, and we are about civil liberties. We're all across the board about listening to who is in Canada, who's got a voice these days. Mhm.
May I also ask, like, are you enthusiastic about vaccines that could potentially increase our civil liberties again?
I don't believe anybody should really look at vaccines as something that's going to give them new freedoms. I don't believe that there should be any restrictions on any of rights and freedoms based on whether somebody takes a vaccine or not. These haven't been properly tested. They are gene therapy. They're still in experimentation. And until people see more research and data, truthful research and data done by these manufacturers of the vaccines, I believe then the people can make their own decisions based on whether they want to take them. I don't believe that people's rights and freedoms should be taken away on taking a vaccine. That vaccines are a very personal thing. This is not about putting a mask on. This is not about what kind of clothes you wear. This is an agent that is a biological agent that is injected into the body. It's a very personal thing. And I think before people make that decision, they should do their proper research and data. Definitely.
Thank you for your response. I would also really like to know your opinion on what factors do you think might encourage voluntary support for restrictions?
Very simple, honest, and real media, which is very difficult for people to find. Factual evidence and science. The science cannot lie when there is truth around agencies that are not involved financially in the studies. It needs to be third party. It needs to be disassociated from the agenda completely, financially and as a manufacturer. It cannot be. It can't be scientists that are affiliated with any kind of organization or to be funded by the system that is creating them. It's impossible.
Thank you. And just like, what's next for the Line Group? What is your final goal? What's your next movement?
Well, we know for sure that the weather is improving. People's minds are starting to open up around what this is all about. We've been doing this for a year now. There are different groups available to help the people receive some good information out there. And quite frankly, we are just going to keep doing what we're doing. The Line Canada has created a Line legal group with our lawyer and 4 paralegals. We've created the Line Youth League, which is some young people in our organization whose parents are patriots that are affiliating themselves and growing a youth league where they're able to do stuff like horseback riding, martial arts, going running together, face painting classes, you name it, all sorts of great things the kids are doing. Because a lot of these kids are no longer in school because they're not agreeing with the mask mandates, right? We are dealing with creating food security initiatives through our food buyers program. And we're also doing protests on the road. We do a drive the line protest, which means we put our flags on our cars and we get to drive around neighborhoods, beeping our horns and explaining to people by yelling out the windows that we are pro-freedom, no more lockdown, open your businesses, open your churches, open the gyms, and don't make liquor stores and weed stores essential services. They're not.
Actually, this is the end of the interview. Yeah, I have no more questions for you. Just like, I'm very thankful for your interesting answers. And anything you would like to add?
Yeah, well, basically that we're not, there's been a very right approach to the protest movement, anti. And the left side is in agreement with everything that's going on. And we're saying there's a way to be balanced in the approach and be more neutral between the two and speak about civil liberties. It doesn't get any more confusing than that. And as soon as you get too many issues on the table, people get confused. We just want our people to have their rights and liberties returned to them. And we can take a look at in full microscope league of what we've seen in the last year here to see what we need to fix. And I think it's perfect timing.
Oh, I want to thank you very much to speak with me and giving your time. Your responses are very valuable to my project. And in addition, the interview will be published on my website on April 2nd, and the link to which I will provide again in my email. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy I could help out with your project, Victoria.
Thank you very much. This is so valuable contribution to my project. Yep.